Hello, everybody. Welcome to the talk. I'm so excited for tonight's show because tonight we have Bob Sattin of Bob's Devices with us, and he has been a part of the show for a few years. And actually, wanted to ask you how many shows have you been to so far?
I've been to a lot of shows. I think I've been to the first show that Richard ever did um, when he was still around. I've been doing the show for a long time. Um, my first show was Expona. The first Expona show was in Atlanta, and they featured me as somebody who was weird. Yeah, someone who was weird because I was into vinyl and everybody else was into digital and CDs, and so they kind of featured. Here's Bob coming back with vinyl. You know what's the matter with
Well, we love vinyl here and at the show as well. Um, I did want to ask you,
him?
what are some of your favorite things about the show?
Well, I like the people that I meet while I'm going to the show. It's really nice to meet a cross section of people, and there's a lot of diversity there too. People are interested in different things, and you know what I really like about the show is looking through stacks of used records that are
Oh yeah, yeah. The vinylonium that they had last year and the year previously was really cool.
there.
I actually took home some vinyl. I actually found a first pressing of Pink Floyd's Echoes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
uh, yeah, or not Metal. Sorry, Metal album. So I was really happy to find that.
oh, that's great. Yeah, there's so many good albums out there, and the pickings. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I also found a Ralph Towner album that I really wanted. He's one of my favorite kind of he's a composer, but he does everything mostly from guitar. Really good composer.
Yeah, I noticed you got a bunch of guitars there.
Yeah. So the show this year is going to be happening this June 7th through 9th in Costa Mesa, California, and I'm looking forward to going to the show. And I wanted to kind of introduce everybody to you because you've been coming to the show for a while, and I wanted to talk about what you do and talk a little bit about your web shop as well because you actually carry some other products there besides the ones that you're manufacturing. And but one of the first questions I really wanted to ask you, as someone who's only dealt with moving magnet cartridges, what is the difference between a moving magnet and a moving coil cartridge?
Well, a moving magnet cartridge, basically, it's like it says on the end of a cantilever. There's a needle on one end, and then there's a cantilever that goes inside the box. And inside the box, either there's a magnet attached to the end of the cantilever, or there's a coil attached to the end of the cantilever, and the
Okay.
magnets on the outside. So a moving coil cartridge, the coil is attached to the end of the cantilever, and a moving magnet cartridge, the magnet's attached to the end of the cantilever. And the advantage of a moving coil is it's less mass, so it's able to respond quicker. And the smaller amount of coils that are in there, the lower the output is, and then the better quality of the sound is going to be. But the issue is converting that sound into something that's going to sound good when it's that low of an output.
So with that low of an output, does that cause like gain staging issues and stuff when you're trying to get it up to a listenable volume with a
Well,
preamp?
I've been doing this for many years, probably at least 20 years, building step up transformers. And the reason I did it is I was a hobbyist at first. And of course, I'm a professional engineer, so anything that I think I can do, I try to do. But um, when I was trying to improve on the sound coming out of vinyl, using going from moving magnet cartridges to moving coil, I found that the moving coil phono stages just were not right. So I started doing measurements and found out that it's not plug and play, that there's so many different variations of moving coil cartridges with output voltages and internal impedances that it's hard to get exactly the right match with a standalone phono stage. So I noticed that manufacturers over time have been trying to accommodate that by putting a bunch of different switches in there to be able to accommodate different um, output voltages of the cartridge and different impedances of the cartridges. Some of them use active stages with FETs. Some of them use op amps, and others even put transformers in the phono stages to go ahead
Mhm.
and accommodate the moving coil cartridges. But I find that by putting all kinds of switches and options on there, with the low output coming from a moving coil cartridge, it takes away from the sound. So I think what you want to do it as cleanly as possible is to match the cartridge to the step-up transformer going into the moving magnet phono stage. Another issue is that if you take a look at specs on phono stages, you'll find that the signal to noise ratio in the moving magnet section is higher than
Mhm.
the signal to noise ratio going into the moving coil section. And that's because of all the losses in the moving coil section that are there. But when you use the step up transformer, you end up not having those losses. So if you look on my website, you'll see a chart that has across the top output voltages of cartridges and down the side internal impedance of the cartridge, and it tells you what the ideal step-up ratio is for that cartridge by matching it across the chart to be able to use into a phono stage.
And your website is bobsdevices.com.
bobsdevices.com.
Awesome. So you can find that chart there on bobsdevices.com. I actually saw it yesterday.
It looks like that, but I don't know if you can read it on here. And here's how do I do this? bobsdevices.com.
Awesome.
And this is what one of them looks like. They're actually pretty small.
Mhm.
And there's a switch on there for high and low gain and ground and lift. And then the connectors are on the back for the in and out and ground. It's very simple.
Okay. So you would use that with a preamp as well, or
Yeah, it goes into a moving magnet phono stage. It bypasses the
okay.
moving coil section of a phono stage. Now, what's really weird is that I've had people that bought my step-up transformer and then said, okay, I want to get something that does it also. I don't have a separate box for the step-up transformer. I want to get something that has both moving coil inputs and moving magnet inputs. And they put mine up for sale. And then later on down the road, they want it back again because it's better than the moving coil section of the phono stage they ended up buying. So I kind of get some giggles out of that.
That's great. So you were explaining what a step-up transformer was, and on your site, I saw there was um, you were talking about how the voltage. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember how the voltage was on it. The different how you. I can't remember the
Oh,
terminology.
yeah.
I tried to write it down. I forgot.
No, that's all right. Basically, a moving magnet phono stage takes an output from a moving magnet cartridge, which is 5 millivolts. And
Okay.
that's 5 millivolts is really small. Well, if you use a 1 to 10 step up transformer, that's good for a cartridge that's 0.5 millivolts. And if you get anything that's less than that, you need more of a step up ratio. And of course, there's a little bit more to that because of the internal impedance of the cartridge. You got to match that too. So anyway, that's all explained on my website. I don't think that's more than what we want to get into here.
Awesome.
But what
I
happens
like
is
the
a,
details.
a moving coil cartridge um, has relatively high current coming out of amperage and low
Okay.
voltage. So what a step-up transformer does is it converts the current or the amperage to voltage and increases the voltage, reduces the amperage. So coming out of the step-up transformer, the current is very, very low. One of the issues with that is that since it's so low, it can pick up all kinds of stray signals like radio stations and electromagnetic um, interference. So I designed some cables. These are on my website also that are double shielded so that you don't get that. And it's also the capacitance is low, so it doesn't interfere with the signal that much. So that was a special design to go with them. Um, and I highly recommend that if anyone wants to use one of my step ups.
Awesome. What's the spark that got you into audio? I mean, you talked about your engineering background, but what was that moment where you're just like, I'm in love. I'm all about audio, and I want to get it. I want
I was a
the best
teenager.
quality sound I can get.
Yeah, I was always into hi-fi. Even as a teenager, I was putting all kinds of stuff together. Um, and as I got older, I was able to afford more and better gear. and more and better records. So like I've said, I've even got some of the records from when I was a teenager, like Beatles on 45, Love Me Do, and I Want to Hold Your Hand, and things like that, I still have to this day. Of course, they're not in great shape, but I still have some of them. But I've always been into improving the sound as much as I possibly could. And like I said, when the CDs came out, I said, my vinyl sounds better than that. And I said, I want to make it sound even better. So I kept working on it and coming up with better ways to improve that.
Awesome. Are there anything? Is there anything you're currently listening to that I always like to ask because I personally love to find new music to add to my musical palette. So when I do get to interview people, I always ask them what they're currently listening to.
Oh, wow. I'm listening to some of the UHQR records that came out of Chad's shop in Kansas. The Steely Dan ones, especially, those sound
Okay.
really, really good. And um,
I grew up on a lot of Steely Dan.
yeah, so that's kind of one of my favorites right now. I also listen to a lot of jazz. You can find some of the old Blue Notes that are really good.
Yeah.
I like those. And one of the secrets, I hate to say this, are the Pablos. If you can find a Pablo in good condition, those the quality of the recording is really, really good, and they don't sell for that much. Of course, after people watch this video, I'm going to have
Yeah.
trouble finding
all the
Pablos.
all the prices go up on
Yeah,
every on Discogs, everything's up like
yeah,
50%. That happens. I mean, you talk about good stuff. I have a friend that he's very much into audio, and every time he posts some like sleeper piece of gear, it goes up in
yeah.
price like
Isn't that
immediately.
crazy?
And I'm like, why? I didn't get my hands on it first.
Yeah.
Uh, so I also wanted to ask you, you carry some other products on your website as well. You carry some VPI turntables. You also carry a variety of phono cartridges as well.
Well, I only carry items that I like. If I don't like an item, I won't put it on my website. I just won't carry it. Um, I, I'm a Koetsu dealer. I can't get Koetsus anymore because they stopped producing them. That's what I'm using at home. I love Hana cartridges. They're almost as good as Koetsus, and
Mhm.
they're made in Japan, just like Koetsu is. And they've got great synergy with my step ups. I'm going to use a Hana ML cartridge at the show coming up with a Sky 20S, and that's going to sound incredible because that's what I'm already listening to here.
So,
But VPI, I've been factory certified. I'm probably one of the first people that were at VPI to get factory certified when Harry was there, and then Matt took over. So I'm going to be using a VPI Prime 21 turntable with a gimbaled arm. I like the gimbaled arms on them, and it's a good price point because it's about 95% of the top quality VPI for about 25% of the price of the top quality item. And if anybody's listening, the last day of the show, I'm going to blow that thing out for lower than you can buy it anywhere.
oh, you heard it right here. Come, come ready to buy. That's awesome.
No, because I
I
don't want to
might.
carry it home.
Yeah.
So I'm probably just near my dealer cost on that at the last day of the show. And it's a new turntable. It'll have a 5-year warranty. But the cartridges that I really like, I say Koetsu, and I like Hana cartridges. I'm going to be doing that. I like some of the Ortofon cartridges. I like the Cadenza Bronze,
Mhm.
but that's not on my website. They don't want too many people to be able to have their product listed on the website to be able to buy. I don't know why, but that's their internal policy.
Hmm.
I have Charisma out there. Miyajima makes some really good cartridges. I really like the Zero Mono.
Okay.
That the Zero Mono cartridge is probably one of the best cartridges I've heard, both mono and stereo, but it just plays on mono records. It's really incredibly good.
Is there anything special that you're going to be bringing to the show this year?
I'm going to be bringing the VPI turntable, a Hana cartridge. Um, the way I'm going to demonstrate them is rather than in a room, and I did a room once and it really didn't work well because people said, "Oh, I love how those speakers sound," and I said, "Well, I'm not selling the speakers. I'm trying to show you, how good the step up is." So I set it up with a phono stage, a step up transformer, a headphone amp, and some headphones, and that lets you really hear all the information that you're going to get out of a record. So I've got little covers that you put over the earmuffs so that you don't have to worry about getting other people's body parts sweat on the headphones. So they'll you have new covers for them when each person wants to listen to
That's awesome. My friend Emiko has a good story about sweaty headphones, and she
them.
doesn't like.
Yeah, we avoid that.
Yeah. So you said you have a background in engineering. When did you first decide that you really wanted to get into engineering? Because I've always kind of had that kind of brain where I always wanted to figure out how everything worked. I would take it apart, I would put it back together. I would go, why is that designed that way? Was it like
Yeah.
that for you?
Well, when I first decided to be an engineer, I think it was in about eighth grade. That's when it just kind of hit me that that's what I wanted to do. And ever since then, I just stayed with the field because that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy um, making things happen, turning ideas into reality.
So, what was the process for you? And like, so you talked about how you noticed that there's most of the time when it comes to inventing, somebody notices there's an issue, and then they're going, okay, I think that this can be improved. I feel like this can
Yes,
be better.
well,
So,
that's
what
exactly
would
true.
explain a bit of that process of how you went through making your step up transformers?
Well, I started out using phono stages that had moving coil inputs, and I really didn't like that. So I was bypassing the moving coil inputs, and I read somewhere, I can't remember where, that transformers can convert current to voltage. So I started experimenting with those, and I found old microphone transformers from Altec, um, um, Peerless,
Hmm.
um, Lundahl, uh, UTC, and probably several others that I haven't mentioned, Newcomb, several others I haven't mentioned here. And I tried a bunch of those, building those into step-up transformers. And I was happy with some of them. The ones that worked the best were the Altec 4722s. They were getting harder and harder to find, and they're microphone transformers. So they're basically designed for a microphone. So the impedance was set at one level for the microphone, but not necessarily for moving coil cartridges. So I did some research and I found out that Altec was became Cinemag. That Tom Reichenbach was Altec. He did the design for it, and he started his own company called Cinemag. So I contacted Tom Reichenbach and we worked together on coming up with some um, transformers. Now he had the 3440As, which are basically microphone transformers, and I started making those. And we walked around the shop, and he had some um, laminations that were in a box in the corner. And I said, "What are those for?" He said, "Those are the special ones. Um, those were those were better quality than what we needed for the transformer." I said, "How about building me some transformers with those?" So he finally agreed to do that, and then he died, and then David Guerin took over. So I've been working with David Guerin, who's really smart, and we've been working on improving the product over time. You know, we went from the 3440A to the 3440AH to the 1131, and then we came up with the Sky series. The Sky series is just incredibly good because the inductance matches the cartridges where the microphone transformers did not. And the
Okay.
latest version of that is the Sky 20S, which is a step above the regular Skies, but that's only available on the 1 to 10 and 1 to 20 range.
And
So
I
I'll be
saw that
using that at the show.
the pun was intended. It's on the website. It says it's a step up.
Yes.
I love that. Anytime you can inject a little levity and humor into things, it's great. I love that.
Yeah, well, you got to laugh at yourself sometimes too.
So I want to ask, what's in your system at home? What's in your main system? What are you
Yeah, well,
running?
that's going to be a problem because um, I have a wife and I have living with a daughter and a son, and we've got grandchildren running around. So I've got to be very careful about what I do. And my wife is wants to make sure everything looks good. It's more important how it looks than how it sounds to her. So we've got to come to some kind of compromise. So the living room has 18-foot ceilings, and it's very hard walls, and we don't have carpeting. So what I'm using are some Ohm F loudspeakers from
Okay.
probably 40 years ago,
My
which
friend Jeremy has a pair of those. He loves those.
those work well in the room that I have, but I couldn't get the bass out of it. So I ended up building some subwoofers out of Infinity Watson dual voice coil subwoofers. Now, Infinity Watsons were very hard to find. They have a crossover. They have two voice coils in the woofer. So you
Hmm.
go down to one frequency, and then you got to use a crossover to go ahead and get the second voice coil in the subwoofer. And I took out some JBL 100 cabinets, and I took all the JBL speakers out, and I put the Infinity Watson speakers in there, and I'm using it biamped with Aragon 4004 amplifiers. So I've got two Aragon 4004 amplifiers going into the electronic crossover, and then the crossover and the subwoofer, and then the OMF loudspeakers. And the phono state, the preamp that I'm using is an Atmosphere.
Nice.
Atmosphere makes really, really nice products. I was very, very happy to get that. I had to wait a long time for it. I love their preamplifier. And for a phono preamp, I'm using a Hagerman trumpet moving magnet only phono stage. But I took the capacitors out of that and I upgraded them with V caps, which made a little bit of a difference over that. And Jim
Hmm.
Hagerman is a great designer. He makes really good gear. And I wish he still made the moving magnet only one, but he doesn't make that anymore. So, and I'm using my Bob's devices into that. And I'm using a Koetsu Rosewood Signature Platinum cartridge.
Nice.
And that's about as good a compromise as I could do and still have it look decent for my wife.
That sounds like a really awesome setup, and I love how you put your own stamp on all of it because you're like, okay, I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it, so I built something
Yeah, I
that
always make
that
stuff
made it. I
up.
love that. I love
Yeah, I
that.
can't help that at all.
I got back into hi-fi and audio. Gosh, 2018, 2019. I started building a system slowly, and then I saw one of my friends on Instagram that he was rebuilding speakers and refoaming them and doing. I'm like, I can do that, and so I started doing that.
Oh
And
yeah,
finding speakers that needed new life breathed into them, and then adding them to my collection, and it's been really fun. I enjoy getting to see how things work, and especially when you can fix something and make it
yeah,
make it new again.
yeah, and also make it better.
Yeah, well, definitely the new foam surrounds on those are a little better than the originals.
Yeah,
um, Well, let me see. What else did I have on my list? So you got Hana cartridges, Miyajima, Charisma as well that you carry. Trying to think of. I was going to ask you. So while you're at the show, I know you're there. You're there working. You're getting people to listen to stuff, and you talked about something at the beginning, which I feel is one of the biggest and most important parts of going to the home entertainment show, and that's the people connections. Because I've met so many great people, like-minded people, and people that maybe I didn't agree with, as well, but we're friends because
yeah,
we got to meet at a hi-fi show and just talk shop and get to know one another. And I think that that's one of the great things about the show. And you also mentioned the diversity. I'm seeing families. I'm seeing male and female, like it,
yeah.
and different
No, I love that.
cultures represented, and it's such a great show. This June 7th through 9th in Costa Mesa, California. I have to plug it because that's that's what I do. And if you use code Ambassador5, you get a discount on tickets too.
Oh, good
Um,
deal.
so so have you made any lasting friendships and relationships through attending the show over the years?
Yes, I have. There are a lot of them. I don't want to mention any names because I don't want to
Oh,
embarrass
that's
any people. But one thing is that when you go to the show, you've got something in common with everybody that's there. Everybody there cares about music, and whether they agree with the way that you're doing something or not. It's nice to just be able to talk to people about what they're into and what they like and what they don't like. And I encourage people to come up and talk to me. I'm very approachable. Don't feel like you got a question that's stupid or anything like that. If you want, bring your own headphones, bring your own record if you want to hear how your own record sounds. But you're welcome to do that. I'd enjoy meeting you.
So, is there anything that you're bringing for the playlist? Basically, what kind of records are you going to be bringing for us to try out Bob's Devices Step Up Transformer with?
That's always an issue because I can't carry 100 records with me, so I usually whittle it down to about 20, and I try to do a cross section of jazz and classical and rock and just so that there's something that most anybody can agree with. But if you bring your own record and you know how it sounds, on with my step up transformer, you'll be able to hear the difference or hear the magic.
That's one thing I've really enjoyed as well with a lot of the exhibitors at the show, is they've gotten, they ask you like, hey, is there anything you want to hear? Anything, because obviously there's a lot of tracks we get really familiar with as audiophiles, especially with our own systems and testing them.
Yeah,
And so it's always cool to be able to go in and say, oh, especially if you brought your own music. It's cool to be able to listen to someone's gear with the recordings that you're most familiar with,
that's
because
right.
then I've never heard that before. And that happened to me once with a Fleetwood Mac album at the very beginning of, I think, of Rumors. I didn't notice that Stevie Nicks was humming at the very beginning of the intro on that first track, and I was like, is she humming? I had to go back and put the needle
Yeah,
back at the beginning and re-listen to it again, because I'm like, I didn't hear that before. I
I'm gonna
think it
have to
was like,
pull that here.
yeah, I think it was when I switched out to when I bought my Harman Kardon T60 turntable, and it has a Ortofon, I think an LM15 cartridge on it, and I had previously had an SL2000 Techniques with a Pickering cartridge on it. And when I switched over to that, I think when I put that track on, I was like, wait, I don't remember hearing that.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I actually found that turntable. It was like a time capsule. It was really cool to find
Oh, that's cool.
that everything, original box, original paperwork, original
Isn't that great
receipt.
to find something like that?
It
And
was it
that's a really
was
good
just
story.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, it's been great having you here on the talk. We got a few minutes left. Is there anything else that you would like to tell people about the show, about Bob's Devices? Are you building anything new? Is there anything that you got in the works? I mean, you can drop carrots. You don't have to tell everybody like, "Hey, I'm building something specific," but you can be like, "Something's on the way."
Actually, the Sky 20S is the latest item on the block, and that's like I said, step up from the Sky 20, and pun intended. But it's not that big of a step up. It's just a little bit better. You've got to have a pretty good revealing system to be able to pick that up. What I am bringing though is what's it called? A Sun Valley 1616D. That's Stereophile just reviewed that and put that in their A category of phono stage. And I've been swapping that back and forth with my Hagerman, and the Hagerman's just
Mhm.
a little bit better than this. But what I did do with this one is I built in a set of Sky 20 step-up transformers into this one, and I'm bringing that to the show.
Oh,
And
awesome.
it's a one-off, and it was the kit version, and I didn't just build the kit. I took all the parts in there and upgraded them. I put metal foil resistors in. I upgraded all the capacitors in, and then I put a set of. I was going to use this for myself. I said, "How good can I make this so that I want to use it at home?" And it's really, really good, but it's just not as good as the Sky 20S going into the Hagerman with the V caps. But it's almost there. So I think that someone might be able to talk me into selling that at the show on the last day.
Okay, someone. So
It's a one-off.
make sure you bring some money. Go to Bob's Devices because he's going to be selling off the stuff that he's bringing because he doesn't want to take it home with him.
Well, I
So
don't mind taking it home. I can use that money and build some new stuff.
exactly, and I love that about you, man. Been really great getting to talk with you, Bob. I enjoy your charisma and your heart for taking things to and making them better. I've always got that kind of mind as well, and I love seeing other people that do it really well because I hack my way at it most of the time. But
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah, it's how we learn, though. We learn by doing and yeah.
I'm jealous of your background. All I've got is my like I said, this is last minute. I couldn't get my other computer to work, so I'm just set up in my workshop, and this is a real mess. You can see some of my gear in the back there.
This background's all fake. I don't have. I'm just kidding. It's I can grab it. Well, I'll move it. It's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a what they call gear acquisition syndrome, which is something that happens in the audiophile realm as well, where you just if something new and shiny comes out, you go, I want to try that. So,
Yeah.
thankfully, I've gotten to the point with my guitar stuff where I've kind of I've leveled that out, and I'm not buying so much stuff anymore. Now I need to buy. I would need to save up to buy more audio gear for sure.
Of course. You need
Because
to
we
do more
always
gigs and get some money from them.
yes, we've done a lot. I've done a lot of gigs this month, so I will see what the payout payout is at the end of the month.
Well, I've got a
Uh,
moving coil cartridge and step up with your name on it.
that would be awesome. I'd love to be able to try a different setup at some point because yeah, I've only had experience with moving magnets and and I've only had a few turntables in my collection, so it'd be cool to do something different.
All right, bring your Fleetwood Mac album.
I will actually. I have a couple. I have two originals and then a new remaster. I think
Okay. Yeah, bring one and see if you can hear the difference.
I will. Well, it's been great meeting you, Bob.
Nice. Yeah.
I look forward to getting to see you at the show and meeting you face to face and further making those people connections. Because the show, my good friend Scotty, who is also an ambassador, he likes to talk about how the connections that we make to our devices matter as much as the connections we make with people. And
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to getting to meet you there at the show and getting to see all the amazing exhibitors and equipment and gear. It's one of those things like 3 days of getting to drive Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Porsches and not having to commit to buy, but knowing what you want when you get home. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me on your show.
I really appreciate you being here on the talk. And if you haven't gotten your tickets yet for the show, use ambassador code 5 and go to theshownow.com and you can get your tickets there. That's this June 7th through 9th in Costa Mesa, California. It's going to be it's a beautiful venue, and California is a beautiful place. I grew up there, Central Coast California and Southern California. So I'm looking forward to going back and visiting, and definitely looking forward to meeting Bob face to face from Bob's Devices and getting to hear his step up transformers. And if you've never gone to an audio show, let this one be your first because it was my first ever audio show, and I just fell in love. And it's
Yep.
just the place that I like to go. And my friends are all there, and hopefully we'll see you all there as well.
Okay. Sounds good.
Have a blessed rest of your evening, Bob. It's great getting to meet you. And bye for now, everybody. I'm going to say high five, because that's my thing. This has been The Talk, as part of the show.